Hello, everybody,
Hey.
and welcome to the White Hatter YouTube news show. I'm Brandon.
I'm Darren.
We got, 4 topics for all of you today?
Quick four.
Quick four to talk about. Well, one's going to be very interesting, I think, for
You think so? For discussion?
for discussion.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Is it going to be like you versus me, like pro con, or what?
I think we'll be pretty congruent on
Congruent. Good word.
on one topic.
All right.
Let's get into the news.
In the news.
First topic for security privacy news last week was Clubhouse. 1.3 million Clubhouse user data dumped in hacker form for free.
This has become this app became very popular during COVID. Actually, what's that app all about? What is it? What does it do?
Basically,
Clubhouse?
it's a live broadcasting podcast app.
Yeah, that's what it is. Basically, a podcast, right? Like a
Live real-time podcasting.
yeah.
Kind of like radio, but app form.
Oh, interesting.
Easiest way.
So what was leaked?
So usernames, IDs, photo URLs, number of followers, handles of Twitter or Instagram connected, the dates accounts were created, and potentially profile information for who invited who into the app, because the app's is an invite-only app.
Right now, passwords weren't.
No, passwords weren't. Now Clubhouse says that they were not hacked.
Of course.
What they stated was this information was all freely available in the app platform that you can look at from users and through their API or application programming interface.
Okay, so the question I have, being a neophyte that I am, why would they allow API access to anybody and everybody?
Yeah, so that's the whole thing. They said they weren't hacked, but technically they weren't hacked because the information was already publicly available. So they weren't technically hacked in that sense, but people are questioning, should this have been open public anyways? Like, come on, people, come on. So,
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, just once again, right? I mean, everything you post online, remember, we sound like a broken record, but we need to be. A is public, permanent, searchable, exploitable, copyable, shareable. And a lot of times it could be for sale, right? Like, it'll be interesting. Without the passwords, I mean, really, is there much information? I mean, it could be used, I guess, for identity theft compared to some other stuff that is being collected. But it's interesting that an app like this that is so public and has become so well known now is not looking at it from a safety by design, security by design, privacy by design. Like, why would they have the API open to anybody, right?
I mean, I saw an article previous week how they think their valuation's at $4 billion as a company.
Clubhouse?
Yeah, no. Go figure.
God, I had one of those last night.
$4 billion?
No, Clubhouse sandwich.
Oh, gotcha. It's like $4 billion.
$4 billion.
Yeah, so that's interesting. I mean, I don't think Clubhouse is going to survive much of anything.
You don't?
Facebook implementing a Clubhouse-like feature. Discord is. LinkedIn is. Like, so Facebook does video. It's not that hard to downgrade your service to now offer audio only.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is something good pops up. I mean, we saw that when Snapchat became popular. What happened? All of a sudden, Instagram had something similar to Snapchat.
Yeah.
And then TikTok became popular. So now what happens? YouTube, Instagram, they all have Snapchat features, right? So, I mean, copying is the highest form of flattery.
Yeah, I don't think Clubhouse will survive because the other platforms are implementing similar features, and them being a closed invite.
Date and record what Brandon just said. We'll see.
I could be wrong.
We'll
I
see
could
if
be
he's
wrong.
Right. We'll see if you're right.
But I mean, like,
could be.
Yeah.
Could be. Interesting though, right? Interesting.
Yeah. Next article. Another app, but interesting in particular. So
this happened to my Apple.
iOS kids game morphs into underground crypto casino.
What?
Okay, so this.
What? The kids could go and play in casino?
Okay, so this is interesting. So in the App Store.
How did this happen? Because
in the App Store, there are these rules that you cannot have a casino app in the App Store.
Right, because Apple's really good at like, they look at these things before they actually put them into their store, right?
Yeah. So what happened here is that this game is hidden inside the app, and only if you're accessing a particular Turkish, Kazakhstanian, or what was it? Or there was another country. Accessing a VPN into that particular country would open up the casino in the app. So because Apple's analysis system doesn't, take into account secret things hidden under VPNs.
Okay, so let me get this right. So if I'm a 16-year-old teen, I'm in Canada, I open up that app and I go, oh, let's turn on my VPN. Let's go to Kazakhstan. As soon as my VPN connects to Kazakhstan and I've now opened up this app, all of a sudden that casino now becomes available to me to go in and gamble?
Yes. I mean, I mean, terrible.
kind of ingenious.
Terrible, but okay, okay, I get it. In terms of how they bypass the security system in place.
Very interesting, right? Like, has Apple dealt with this?
And the game was marked for ages 4 plus. Because it was a simple jump.
Hey, Mom, can I have your credit card?
It was a simple, like, jump and tap and jump run game. Like, super simple, super basic. But, yeah, no, it was, yeah, interesting. Yeah, apps now removed from the App Store and all that stuff. But I was like, oh, okay. I just wanted to share that.
But if they've done it, what's to stop other apps from going,
hey! It'll be interesting to see how Apple now combats this. Like, maybe in their review process, they have to, like, I don't know. I don't know how Apple's going to combat this, because how are you going to, yeah.
Interesting. Interesting. You know, I'm pretty pro Apple. As you know, I'm an Apple guy. I'm an Apple. So are you. You're Apple ecosystem, but you give fair game to the Android platforms as well, right? But it'll this one will be interesting, because if they've done it, that means others are doing it. So unless Apple is now playing with all their apps and turning on VPNs and going to
maybe
Kazakhstan, what were the other ones?
Set the VPN. They set the VPN to Turkey,
Italy.
And Italy. Kazakhstan and Italy. So I mean, that's just so interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Yeah,
just a workaround. It's always a cat and mouse game. Right? It's a cat and mouse game, right? Like, Apple's coming out with all these really cool features to stop, to increase privacy, stop tracking, all that kind of stuff. So now people are trying to figure out, okay, where do we find the workaround? So it's commonly a cat and mouse game, which is kind of, I mean, if you're in that industry where you're kind of spy versus spy kind of thing, right? Like, it'd be kind of fun, right? Like, oh, okay. Anyways, interesting. Yeah, that one's interesting.
Next one. Interesting story.
Yeah, this is one I brought to your attention.
School custodian refuses to download a phone app that monitors his location, says it got them fired. Interesting article, complex article, a lot of things involved here. So
this is Canadian too, right?
Canadian, so happening in Edmonton.
Yeah, Alberta.
So, I mean, this isn't like talking about a school per se. It's a company that's hired by a school to clean schools.
Yeah.
Most schools like outsource that kind of stuff.
This was interesting because she was already on the job working for the employer who's subcontracted by the school or district to clean the schools. And once she was on the job, the employer said, oh, by the way, employees, you need to download this app onto your personal phones, right? And the app was basically a check-in app. It's like it tracks you, and you can set up geo-fences. So the employer knew when you were on site and for how long you were on site, and if you left the site from a billing standpoint, right? So it was very interesting that way. Well, this person here, this employee, maybe we can pull this up full screen again. She actually said no. Now, if I was her, I probably would have said the same thing. Like, hold on a second here. You want me to download an app? We don't know what it is. We don't know what it collects, and you want me to put that onto my personal phone when I have all my personal information, things like banking and all that kind of stuff? No, I'm not going to do that. So, as a result of that, she says that the company let her go. They dismissed her. Now, the company says that was just a part of the puzzle, right? Like, there were some other things, and they didn't get into what those things were, nor should they, that caused them to let her go. But I think from a functionality standpoint, I would have done the same thing that she did. I would have said, no, this is my personal phone. I'm not going to put a third-party app onto my phone because I don't know what it's collecting, what it can see, and what it's like. I'm just not going to do that. Now, if they would have fired me over that, I would have fought it. But I have the financial means to go about doing that. Maybe she didn't, right? And maybe there were some other issues that the employer let her go for, not just this. Maybe it was another piece of the puzzle. But I think what would have made this more interesting is if it was a company-issued phone.
Yeah, so in the CBC article, it talks about another case here in BC where we're located on how employees of a company were fighting against this. But very clear in the summary, it says on a company-issued phone for the purposes that were described, it was a-okay.
Right.
So I think Now, was also mentioned here in the CBC article, they reached out to a Toronto employment lawyer who said, yeah, you know what, employers can compel employees to download an app on their cell phones, but only if they're told to do so as a requirement when they get hired.
Right. So in other words, if it was the pre-recruit standpoint where you're applying for a job and then they disclose to you that a part of this job is that you're required to download this thing onto your phone,
Yep.
and you agree to that, well, that's consent. So now it's on there. And
But should that even be like should that even be a thing? Because I'm pretty sure that will eventually get challenged in courts.
Maybe.
You know, is it like if you're going to compel an employee to put an app onto their phone, their personal device, should it be required when an employer has to administer a work to the dedicated device?
Yeah, I personally believe yes, because I think employers that are doing this don't know some of the security and privacy issues.
Well, the app in particular, apparently this is a UK-based app, which UK has very stricter privacy laws than even here in Canada. And as described in the app, from what they stated, well, basically the app only collects data, and the owner of the data is the company who uses their app.
So they say. How many times have you heard that story before?
So they say, but I mean, given the company's location, if by not doing that, there's a lot more financial risk to the company, because here in North America, companies don't really get sued by that type of stuff. In the UK, they do.
I just think that it would be morally and ethically more desirable that if you require a worker to have a specific type of app on the device, then the employer should provide that device to the employee.
That would make sense. I mean, that just makes a lot of sense.
Right? I'm just concerned. Yeah, it's a British group, and yeah, they have a huge privacy. They're juggernauts, right, in Great Britain when it comes to privacy, which is cool. But still, do I really want to download a third-party app onto my personal
The app only
device?
collects data once they enter the geofence of the place of work.
Well, yeah, but what is it collecting? Is it collecting my operating system? Is it collecting, like, what else? What is the metadata that the app is collecting, and what is this company doing with that data? I mean, that's what concerns me on this. So I actually agree with her that I wouldn't have downloaded. I would have said no. And if they terminated me just based upon that fact and nothing else, I would have fought it. I would have gone to labor relations, say, okay, let's go, right? But I've got the financial means to do that. I don't know if she did. Now, if it's a work phone, if I give you the phone and say, you have to carry this with you whenever you're on the job, well, then you have to do that, right? But again, is that really going to solve the issue? Because if it's a work phone and I want to mess with the employer a little bit, I just drop the phone on a table and maybe I drive away for a couple hours to a beach, suntan a little bit. The employer thinks I'm on site because my phone is showing me on there.
Well, after work, you flop into a Faraday bag.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, yeah. I mean,
oh, you're going to call me? You got no signal. It's in a Faraday bag. Sorry.
So this brings up, I wrote an article on Facebook about this just to say, hey, listen, this brings up more discussions, Brandon, kind of like, where are you going? What are you doing? What are you doing? What do you got? Oh, yeah. Oh, flip phone. Yeah, you were saying a flip phone, right? Like, yeah, Mr. Employer, this is my phone. It's a flip phone. You can't download anything onto it, right?
You have a phone? Yes, I do have a phone.
Right.
Download the app right away, employer. Oh, I'm sorry. Look at that.
But then what if I say to you, well, in order to work here, you have to have a smartphone. Right? So again,
you could write that off as business expense.
Yeah, but now, so you write off as a business expense, but now it's still your personal phone. You purchased it, you're paying for it, and now you're being required.
What if it's a family-owned phone, so therefore the color of right is owned by many people?
Yeah, I don't know.
So, for example, some families may only have one phone. Let's say.
Okay.
Let's play this out. One phone in a family.
Yep.
It's shared between different users in the household.
Yep.
Does an employer have that's interesting, right?
I just think there's too many questions here. Right? To make it clean, companies, if you require an employee to have a specific app on their phone for the purpose of tracking and billing and all that kind of stuff, then issue the device. Issue the device, right? Now, then there's no question. And if the employee doesn't want to use it, well, then now you have grounds for discipline, whatever that discipline is. But demanding an employee download a third-party app onto a personal phone, I don't personally think that's right. And I think legally,
It will get challenged.
yeah,
In probably in the near future.
yeah. I'm no lawyer. I don't pretend to be one. But when you look at what's going on in case law in this area, I think the employee has grounds to stand on here. But again, the employer did state publicly that this was not the sole reason why. There were other issues that they used to help them make a decision to terminate her employment. So, but they mentioned the BC one. But what they don't mention, they said, well, there's, like you said, there was a similar case in British Columbia. No, that was a
Work
company,
issued.
That was a work issued phone. Totally different, right? So, anyways.
Interesting.
Interesting one, right? Again, we never think about these things until they come to light, right? That's what's kind of cool about the new online world, is creating things and paradigms that we've never thought about before, right? And we need to come to grips with.
Mm-hmm. Last topic for today is FBI accessing computers across the U.S. to remove malicious web shells, which are basically like viruses in a way, that are currently installed on Microsoft email servers.
Now, I think that heading is a little clickbaity, because when people read that, especially conspiracy theorists, they're going to think the FBI is going in and doing this, like, just because. But yet, if you actually read the article deep down, the FBI actually got court authorization to do this. So they went to a court, not FISA. They went to a court. I know where you're going to go. What about the FISA court? Where's my silver tinfoil hat?
Courts
right?
can be complicit in activities that may not necessarily
Sure
be in the
they
best
can.
interest of the public.
Sure they can. There's no doubt about that. But it's not as if the FBI decided just to go do this willy-nilly, right? Like they went to a court to get court authorization to be preemptive.
The background on this. So earlier last month, there was a data breach. Well, there was a flaw in Microsoft email servers that basically affected big companies globally, and people were quickly trying to patch these fixes to prevent hackers from exploiting them.
Right.
Well, basically, most of them have been fixed, but there are a couple companies who have not, either because they're not aware of it, they don't know how it works, or whatnot. So the FBI is seeing, okay, well, these issues, pretty big issues, let's go in and fix the issues.
Right.
To prevent external hackers from exploiting, company data.
I can just see the deep state thinkers thinking, oh, here we go again. The FBI is coming into my business without any kind of court authorization or any warrant, right?
It's free IT support. Yeah, fix my computer for me, please. There you go.
Now, if they were doing it without a court authorization, that's a big deal, right? Like, who are you to come into my business to do this without my authorization or without a court order to do it, right? Like, you can't do that. At least you couldn't do it in Canada, right? But it appears that they got a court order to do this.
But this is still right.
Well, if they got a court order, it's legally right.
But is it still right? There's a lot of things that are legally right that are not ethically right.
So you're that's where you're going with this. I got a little bit of an itch on my shoulder. What you're talking about here is not legal right. You're thinking ethical and morally right, because sometimes the two don't mesh.
Yes.
Is what you're saying. I guess the question now is what was the purpose of it, right?
Well, to fix the issues, prevent hackers from external countries from breaching company computers and stealing emails, which can be very sensitive.
Correct. Well,
to protect the infrastructure of the United States.
Is that morally, ethically correct to do that, especially if they got a court order? I would argue with you. Yes, and I would suggest to you that they probably are letting, I don't know, I'm making an assumption here, but I would assume that the FBI, before they did that, would go, hey, White Hatters, just to let you know, we got this court order that allows us to come into your computer to fix a vulnerability that you presently have because you have this on your computer. And by the way, it's free IT support. Like what you said, right? Like, I would think that the FBI would be doing something like that. I don't think they're going in covertly and doing this. Like, I don't think that's, but I can definitely see after reading that article or the headline how it could be very clickbaity that, what? Big state, like deep state, they're going into my computers and doing stuff. Like, what else are they putting in there? What else are they doing? Like, I just...
Yeah, but if they're not, someone else is, because there's a flaw.
Yeah.
A flaw that's actively being exploited. So if they're not, you might as well, who would you prefer? What's the lesser of two evils?
Well, some people would say the deep state. Some people believe that the deep state is
So you'd
nothing
rather
more than
leave your computer open to external country hackers?
There are some people who believe that the deep state in and of itself is a form of terrorism. Like, I kid you not. These are the same people
So you'd rather
that think,
trust a hacker in the middle of nowhere?
I know. But these are the same people who think that these vaccines. By the
Oh,
way,
boy,
I got my
here we go.
AstraZeneca one, right? Like, it was great. I didn't have any issues. A little bit of a fever for about 4 or 5 hours, slight fever, nothing major. But there are some people that thinking that these vaccines are Bezos and what's his name from, who's the other guy?
Bill Gates?
Yeah. They're injecting these nanobots into our arms to track us and everything that we're doing, and that they're pre-programmed that so at some point in time somebody's going to hit the Q button and kill us instantly from a distance. Like, they actually believe this. I just about said a bad word, right? They believe that kind of stuff,
Didn't
right?
have to cut anything.
I know, like you did last time, right? So it's just, I can see how
Nothing was
some
cut.
conspiracy theorists and people who believe in deep state would think, oh, here we go again. The FBI is coming into our rights. There goes our liberties. Blah, 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 blah. So, anyways, just saying. Beam me up, Scotty. It looks like that's what you used to see on Star Trek. Remember when they used to open up their tricorder? Two to beam up, Scotty. Tune to beam up. Actually, you know who does a really good accent like that? Cal. Got his name in his. He does a really good accent of James T. Kirk.
All right.
Yeah, he does. He does a really good job of that. So Cal does. I got your name in again, Cal.
All right.
Give me again. So, anyways, short show.
Good show.
Short show. Oh, say that 20 times quickly. The busy week again. Like, we had 14 presentations last week. We got 14 this week. I mean, super busy, and we got some new equipment hopefully coming in this week as well, doing what it is we're doing. So you shared some of our thoughts on creating studios like this with another very well-known person who talks about social media safety and digital literacy, which is kind of cool that people are turning to you now to kind of figure out how you've MacGyvered all this together. Kind of cool.
Yeah.
Kind of cool. Yesterday, you were able to do some really cool things where you're able to stream outside too, right? Is that kind of cool? Like how you were able, like, just bizarre, how you were able to
2 hours.
I know.
I built a
And you
stream.
had, like,
I built a streaming setup in 2 hours to go outside.
and you also had a top-down camera outside.
Yeah.
It's like, how did you
I know.
do that?
Yeah.
That was amazing, right? Like, it's pretty cool to see how, once you've got the nuts and bolts into place of what you've done here with the studio, and are able to apply it, say, external from the studio. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. I'm really looking forward. I'm not going to give out what it is. I'm really looking for this new piece of equipment coming in. I think it's going to be kind of cool. I can't kind of wait to see what you're going to do with it, to be quite honest.
Gotta figure out how to put it first.
I know. I know, it's going to be kind of interesting, right? So, anyways, good show. Good show. So, on behalf of myself, I'm Darren.
And Brand, thank you all so much, and we'll see you again next time.
See you later. Bye now.
See ya.